So glad to be getting this incredible different perspectives and different ways of being able to look at how we can support ourselves as individuals and our loved ones who are autistic. And
Yes.
if you're ready, we will bring our next guest up to the stage. Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for being here today.
Everything good on your end? No.
Yep,
We're good?
we
Okay.
see your slides and we're good to
All
go.
right.
So we
Excellent.
will exit the stage and let you continue with your presentation. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for being here today, and we're just so excited and grateful, ready to learn. So
Thanks.
show us what you got.
Well, thank you. So I'm here today to kind of talk about my my personal experience and some of my my current research that I've been doing on the human side of autism. And so when I sat down to work on this presentation and just polish it up, I was asked by my HR department to prove that I had autism every 6 months. So that came up kind of out of the blue. And so as I've been working on this, I have been embroiled in the fight yet again. So it almost was a reminder. And so I had to sit down last night, and when I grabbed some spoons in order to do it, and make sure that this was, the most up-to-date information possible. So I do title this Here Be Dragons. And if you're not familiar with the idea in old maps, when some of the theories are when the old cartographers did not know what was beyond this area, they could simply write "Here be dragons," and no one would venture past. A keep out sign. And so when I think about my experiences over the last 5 years, I do want to put up a little bit of a sign, but I also know that by our nature, some of us that are on the spectrum, some by nature, we are adventurers sometimes, even if it's virtually. And so sometimes when we see that beware, don't go there sign, it piques our interest and our curiosity. And so I thought, what better way to title this than Here Be Dragons? So a little bit about me, my professional experience. I teach at a community college in Metro Detroit, and I've done so for about the last 20 years. Had varied teaching experiences up until then. I'd done some community organizing, taught overseas in Ghana, taught K-12 for a blink of an eye. Dysregulating environment, anyone? So I originally was hired as an English teacher, taught writing, had come to English as most people do in a class that they were forced to take. And so as an engineer, I took an English class, and I realized when I was sitting in the class and the professor would ask, well, we know that this character is nervous. How do we know? And I would look around at all my classmates, and none of them were answering. And I'd say, well, his hands are in his pockets. His eyes are shifty. He's fidgeting with his hair. All of those signs that I had learned to read as a child, to know if I was okay in the environment, if I was doing the right thing, right? All those little micro cues that we take in and we absorb. And I learned that, holy crap, this is a skill. What I used as a survival tool was an actual skill. So when I switched to English, I also knew that I hoped I was able to find a college teaching job, and I was. But always my interest was in why. Why do other humans do what they do? Why am I different? Whatever. And so because my job afforded me tuition assistance, I kept going to school. And I kept studying new things. And so I got degrees in political science, philosophy. I went after I got my doctorate. I went and got certifications in disability inclusion. I'm even studying design now. And it's just the idea of, again, when I have a special interest, I can go and kind of study it. And I am now a humanities professor. I created the department. It existed at one time at my college, but it had kind of gotten pushed off into a basement somewhere. And so I asked, well, what about this? And help create the department, help write multi-million-dollar grants with the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and even had, kind of rose to the level of, head of, their kind of their section of the college that's, for the best and brightest students. And I was, kind of running independent research with students. I mean, doing some amazing things. We went to international art competitions, and there were engineering and art and journalist students that had never poured metal a day in their life, and they were pouring metal. And the whole idea was, I was, doing what I was hired to do, which was to innovate education, was to, take, humanities education to another level. And in that process, there were other personal things, right? That as my career was going, life was happening. And this is what happens, right? And looking back in hindsight, my wife and I were able to kind of piece together the timeline, and we see that, when you look at my story, it's the typical undiagnosed story, right? um I was born in an area where weird is okay. And so in Appalachia, quirky, odd, different is kind of a badge of honor. And that's acceptable as long as you're our quirky. And so the community would kind of protect me, and they would provide little micro accommodations, little small ways of just saying, well, he doesn't like to sit on that chair, so let him sit in that chair. Yeah, we're going to turn down the lights because these kids don't like the lights. And those types of things were just taught to me as the things you do for the people around you, because that's community and all of these kind of Appalachian values. And I just thought this is how people work, right? Because that was what I was locking in as the rules. Went to college, met, my life partner, and we got married at 25. And it was a big change for me because I had all these little schedules that I didn't know I had, that I didn't do anything on Sunday. I didn't go anywhere. I listened to Johnny Cash. I stayed in my pajamas. I read the newspaper. I read some books, watched my safe movies, and recharged for the week. But you want to go, when you love people, you want to do what they want to do. You want to take them to the places they want to go, not knowing what that does to you when you've naturally adapted these systems for yourself, that then don't work to integrate other people into your life. And that's probably why the statistics are the way that they are for our community. And my wife will tell you wholeheartedly that it has been a rough hoe for 20 years. But we had a child 10 years ago, and obviously, even the ways in which she was able to accommodate and really, honestly, step aside and let me just do my thing, because she knew that the dysregulation that would come after was worse, right? Because I was upset all the time and everything was everyone's fault, right? And so when we had a child, though, you can't always control the environment. And so when those cries would happen and when those unexpected things would happen, I would freeze. I had run camps of 300 kids. I had, worked in some high stress, high speed environments, kitchens, and had been in places where there were dangerous things that had happened. And this had never happened to me. And I would freeze. And so when we started on the kind of path to, seek diagnosis for my daughter, we also were well, there's a lot of correlation here, obviously. And when I was diagnosed at 41, I call it the most life-changing nothing that ever happened to me. And that was given to me by one of my friends. One of my friends who was a doctoral student at Rutgers, and she was saying, it's going to be the most life-changing nothing that ever happens to you. The world is going to change around you and through your eyes, and they're going to see the same person. And so those things that you were able to do before that maybe now you couldn't do because the glass has been broken and you realize that you were faking it and you were dissociating while you were faking it, that wasn't there anymore. I don't have that life raft anymore. If I wanted to do that, I don't think I could, which is a good thing. I'm happy, right, in that unknowing for the first time. But I, post diagnosis, I am down half my size. I'm no longer taking, the meds and all this other stuff. And I think that this is, again, typical when you look at the undiagnosed story. All of these things that happen to us on the way to finding the answer in this kind of late diagnosis world. And so I provide the evidence here. The 2-year difference when we're working in therapy and the therapist is like, well, maybe your stimming is oral. Maybe we can work on getting you some jewelry, right? And so I've got this this nice little piece of jewelry that no one knows is jewelry until I stick it in my mouth, and then I don't care at this point. And so I kind of jokingly offer this up as visual evidence of again, when I learned to kind of connect, because again, the ASD affects our communication with others, obviously, but it affects our communication with ourselves. I mean, self-care tasks, eating, all of these things that we do, but sometimes because it's almost an afterthought. And so all of those things that, I locked in and had learned, I didn't realize all of the amount of energy I was using to do those basic things and to appear functional, right? For whatever that means in the world. And so when I work at work at a place or in a kind of field that is about evidence and about knowledge and about understanding and about inclusion, you hope that then that's met with the same. And initially it always was on the individual level. For the most part, it almost always is. When I disclosed, a lot of colleagues would be like, yeah, yeah. And, some would be, I think the best were kind of like, so what? And that matters, and not in a dismissive way, but almost in a matter of fact way. And so when I think about the advice I would give, because this is something that I do often to younger professionals, I constantly see this image in my head, because like Charlie Brown, I still line up to kick the football. I still give it a shot. Because no matter how, and this is, maybe in the Appalachian in me, but no matter how much manure they shovel onto me, I'm going to look at that and say, I can use that as fertilizer for something. And so, I would basically advise people when they think about disclosing at work to seek their legally guaranteed rights. Yes, getting on a record is important, right? But you've got to be able to explain your needs and fight for those needs. And in that process, because our amygdalas are the way our amygdalas are, you can't lose yourself, because there are times where you're so set on the goal of being right, that being right and getting what you are supposedly owed can destroy all those things around you, right? Those tenuous other things that you have built, families, careers, even hobbies, right? I don't know. I'm so excited because in the last year, I've been able to sit and watch movies again. My doctoral dissertation focuses on how ideology is taught through movies, and I haven't been able to watch a movie in 2 years. not just the dysregulation, but all the other things spinning in the way. And I'm trying to deal, and I'm trying to, work the system that is not built for me. And even now, when I'm in the throes of, office communications, and I'm having trusted confidants say, yeah, you're misreading this. There's no facetiousness there at all. There's no sarcasm there at all. And I'm like, wow, okay. So how was I navigating the world all this other time? Now, again, my brain's telling me don't trust them. So, and I'm kind of thinking, is that my amygdala? Is that not? So again, just don't lose yourself, because we get stuck in there. But I think the most important thing is that whole fertilizer manure metaphor, because that was what, when I was doing the research on what I needed and why I needed it, because that's what they asked me. You want these accommodations? Well, why would you need accommodations as an autistic college professor? And then I came across this stuff about the comorbidities and the suicide rates and the mortality rates. Okay. And this is one source that utilizes other sources, right? There are tons of kind of conflicting numbers out there, but not tons of research on this. So I would like, again, this is where I, when I came to this and I said, oh my gosh, this is why I was in a cardiologist's office, having whatever they call it, right? It wasn't, an infarction or anything, but it was an episode, right? And the intern comes back in and says, it's all psychosomatic. Something's up. Not that he didn't say psychosomatic, but he basically said, this is not medical. At this point, there is something that is triggering you to have these things. And I was having anxiety, panic, meltdown, constant stage, like a little deer constantly ready to flee. And again, you can't sleep or even heal when you're in those states. So it makes sense that when you look at cortisol levels, when you look at the effects that this has on the physical body, right? Living undercover, essentially. So when I saw that, I said, I have to do something. And that's when I, online, I've been able to meet some wonderful people from all walks of life, places of the world. And I contacted some of them and I said, let's do something about this. We are autistic. We've got autistic kids. We've got autistic family members. Let's keep them here. Right. And so we started this kind of foundation. And in the last 6 months, we've been able to do a lot. With the little that we've gotten, we've gained 2,000 in individual donations, and we just received a grant from Walmart, a couple weeks ago, a community building grant. But we've been able to produce research. We've been able to publish, attend conferences, even submit testimony to Congress. And so in the past 6 months, with a team of three, 3 determined late, identified and diagnosed autistic adults who said, no, we're not going to let that happen to others. What happened to us? And so, we kind of created this. We've been working on then creating resources for the community, and resources that the community can have. And so again, my background's in seeking grants, my background's in finding money in order to innovate. And so that's what we're doing right now. And we've started that process. But one of our first and our favorites is right there in the middle of the screen there. This is our non-speaking communication aid. That, I was kind of just working around with something, and I just kind of prototyped some stuff and I sent it in. My daughter wanted it for her water bottle. She said, this will be great for the other ASD class. I can communicate with kids. It's going to be awesome. Let me put that in my water bottle. She comes back 8 hours later and says, Dad's garbage. Nope. Everyone in the class tore it up. We've got notes. And she sat down and she took me through the notes. Too many emotions. There's too much going on. We can't communicate these basic needs. And by the end of the night, we had that little sticker in the middle, which we use as mouse pads, which we, and again, we kind of, hand out whenever we go places, because again, we know that being heard, being recognized, that idea, that was aforementioned about behavior being communication. You'll see our little PB&J graphic down there. We talk about, giving people a snack when they're dysregulated. You being patient, you focusing on their behavior as communication, not as anything other than that. And, being present in the moment. And so I'm a humanities professor. I've learned about human structures. I've learned about religions and politics and all of these things that are seemingly unrelated, but it's attitude. It's understanding how people have utilized attitude. In my dissertation, I did mention that my dissertation was on Marvel, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it was how one could look at that as a moral text, how one could utilize that in a world where you can't maybe use a religious text in a classroom. You could utilize those heroes and superheroes as metaphors for philosophical discussion, and that because they act that way, they also send us messages, and they art influences life influences art. So I think that those skills can be utilized. And so we're utilizing, that kind of background and doing some qualitative research, because a lot of the research that I have found on suicide in the autistic community and the resources that we have, it usually focuses on not understanding the reason. And then when you look at the research on how to regulate, it almost dismisses the personal benefit. You see a lot of discussion of, well, these fidgets or this, resource, sensory room was beneficial to the individuals, helped them, made them feel more accepted, all this other stuff, but it didn't raise attention. It didn't raise productivity. Therefore, we can't say it's effective. I want to reframe that research because you've proven something, you've shown something, but you're just not looking at the right answer that you found. Because you're asking a different question. And I think that if we can ask the questions, then, we can get closer to some real answers. I'm hoping. So that's kind of what we're doing within the foundation, or what I have done with, my personal experience. And I said, well, if these institutions are going to be used against us, then let's create our own institution. And we've done all kinds of things that we've had to even pull back on, because our idea of what a foundation or what rules or what a charity is are based upon a world that wasn't built for us. And so we said, no, we're having a hard cap of our overhead. We're having a hard cap of a 4-day work week. We're having a hard cap of this. I mean, because we want to do it different, because it needs to be done differently. And so that's kind of what, I when I think about there being dragons and the parts on the map that are unexplored, I'm ready to go. And I know that it may be a one-way journey, but we've got to do it. We have to. So, and I thank you for giving me a chance to share that with you.
Sorry, I was muted.
No, it happens.
It was so great. That was a wonderful presentation. And we did have some comments that were going on during, some of them were mine. So I love your stories. Wow, I said. Your
Thank
picture, I think, was what it was. Brenda said, such an interesting gift this has been for you, Adam. Sounds like a relief to have this clarity.
Yeah.
And in my own personal journey, the same thing. When I found out my diagnosis, and it was my husband who noticed, he said, "Oh my gosh, you're not startled by everything anymore. Like, I think your sense of fight or flight is gone." And it took like him and me a little bit of like room to get comfortable with the fact that I'm not on my toes anymore, waiting for everything to happen around me. Like, I'm settled in my skin and in myself. And I don't think I've ever even been like happier as a human than I have been in this last 2 years. Oh yeah, that's me saying thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
um, so yeah, I think that uh the way that we can get together like this and share these stories and anecdotal um kind of lessons for people to take from, so important. Thank you so
Yes.
much for your time
Thank
today.
you for allowing me the platform to do so. I
Yeah.
really do, and I appreciate everything that you're doing. I've been enjoying, what I've seen this morning. It's awesome. I love this. I
Yeah.
love this.
Thank
This is
you.
where I've said repeatedly, that these virtual environments, this is a world that is built for us. I mean, like
Mm.
I can walk away from a social situation, come back to it, go upstairs, get some spoons, come back and be like, okay, now I'm ready again. Right. I mean, not if
Mm.
we're live, but I love this, the exploration aspect, which is why, like I
Yeah.
said, I couldn't help but think about those old maps.
Mm, that's beautiful. I think that it's really special that we can see each person's journey and, where kind of they pick up that inspiration and that passion and just run with it.
Yep. Yep.
Love that.
Very much so. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Mia, any thoughts you had going on during that?
I just love his freedom. I can just tell like something
Yeah.
switch and you can just see it all up. Once he got it was like, I don't care. I know how to do this now. I know how I can apply. Oh, it just it came through the phone. Like I
Yeah.
can just, oh, I love it. I
Thank you.
love it.
Thank you. And I said it's very cliche, but it is. I was telling my partner the other day that it's one of those, uh, I, all my life, and now I've been prepared for this moment, and it seems like I have the perfect toolbox for it. I'm ready.
Yeah.
So yes, it's weird. It's weird, but I think it's good.
Yes, it's very good. It's very good. Oh man.
Absolutely. Wow. The Thank you so much. I mean, just the amount of hugs I want to give everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't say it enough. I'm so humbled by this experience with all of you. To give your time, give your, you're volunteering your time. Let's put that out there, number one. We all are, and all for the purpose of creating this community for ourselves, for our loved ones, for the individuals we care so much about, and the individuals we don't even know, that
Yeah.
we want to pave a better way and an easier place for them to walk in these steps. So just thank you so much and honor you for being here. And yeah, what a wonderful day and amazing, amazing event. Adam, please come back and join
Oh, I
us in
will.
the comments and come and say hello, to watch some other sessions. And of course, if you've missed anything, you can already go back this morning and watch replays of any sessions. So
I was already on there checking them out. It was
look at
awesome. Yeah.
that. Oh my
Be
goodness.
built
I
for
don't
us.
have enough tissue boxes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again
Thank
so
you.
much. And yeah, really enjoying our time here today.
Thank you. Bye.
Absolutely. Wow.
Bye-bye.
Oh, yeah. Just it's just like magic. I feel like I leave with chills, each time I get to hear these stories. And
Yes.
especially my relatability to these adults with
Mhm.
late diagnoses, and being able to
Yes.
say, yes, that sense of relief, that sense of connection with my husband who's on the spectrum, and to know that, like, it's 20 years I've been with this guy. How can I feel any closer to him? But no, today I feel closer to him than ever
That is
before.
beautiful. That's
Yes, it's
beautiful.
such magic. And I think it can only happen with having, our open mind and an open heart, to be able to accept things for the reality of them, the challenges. I love our next presenter is here and going to be coming up next. And I think that it's beautiful segue from what Adam was just saying
Mhm.
into Bridget's session, and that, we'll be talking about um oh my gosh, I just saw a comment from my husband in the comments. I'll get to that in one second. But Bridget, you know, coming up next, we're going to be talking about the intersectional of autism and suicide. And I think that, you know,
Oh,
Adam touched on that. And I
he
think that
did.
it's
He did.
so important and like a serious topic that we really need to draw experience from and just listen and be mindful to help our fellow autistic community, you know, individuals out. And thank you so much. I think that he's right. Both of us getting diagnosed was the best thing for our relationship. It really,
Oh, that's
that's my
beautiful.
husband, Dustin. Thank you. I love you so much. You're my
Oh,
best friend
that's
in the world.
beautiful.
I
That's
know,
so
right?
beautiful.
How lucky am I? I'm just such a lucky
You know,
person.
Sarah, I
All
was
my
thinking
friends.
too. I got diagnosed with a learning disability, but I didn't find it out till senior year. And when he was talking, I was like, you do live in a fog because you're thinking you're nuts, something's wrong, you're crazy, and you know you're not getting it. You know you're not understanding, and I had this beautiful, wonderful counselor who finally said, "Hey, let's get her we went through all the tests and everything, but it was such a relief, like, okay, now I'm not crazy and there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong, and something just got lifted off. But I thought about that